Why the comparisons with Princess Diana should end for the Princess of Wales.
And the Sussex camp is in Operation Security Overdrive, pulling out all the manipulative tactics you can imagine. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here in sunny California.
And I'm sure I've got a view or two about Meghan and Harry, but more importantly, I'm batting for the Prince and Princess of Wales once again from the UK.
And we love that about you, Rupert. All right. I've seen multiple pieces over the last week, which I thought, well, I mean, it's her birthday. So we expect to see kind of a ramp up of content surrounding the Princess of Wales. But I've seen multiple pieces where Robert Jobson wrote one. The one I'm referring to here is the Daily Mail, and I apologize for not knowing the author of that one. But people saying, we need to pump the brakes when it comes to the Princess Diana comparisons. For instance, it's Richard Fitzwilliams that talks to the Daily Mail. He says that she is not likely to emulate Diana Catherine, who reached out to others brilliantly, but was also brittle and deeply unhappy. They are too different to be compared. And the Daily Mail piece talks about how, despite being Crown Vogue's internal influencer for her iconic and immaculate style, Catherine appears to have a renewed sense of purpose. She is happily in remission from cancer and increasing her public engagements, which you just mentioned to me offline, talking about how she's got some rugby events, women's rugby events coming up. I think that this is a really fair conversation to have. Now, I do see her dress like the Princess of Wales sometimes, but when it comes to her attitude, her commitment to serving the crown, her commitment to following the rules, and you knew Princess Diana, these are two very different people. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and it's a sort of deification of Diana, which, bearing in mind, and tragically, she lost her life so young, just 37 years of age. As you mentioned, the Princess of Wales has just turned 44. So she's in a different life cycle. And I do think we need to get away from that. Of course, it's William and Harry's mother. And she did have an iconic status. But as we know, it wasn't uncomplicated. Her relationship, not only within the royal family and the attention, and she was very clever at controlling the narrative in many ways. And unfortunately, I think we've got, not unfortunately, I think we just have to stop this comparison because the world's got to move on because the cycle is different. She was unhappy, got married so young, naively, but
Well,
actually,
and we
then
know
you,
we know Catherine knew what she was getting
you
into because, as Meghan so rudely brought up during her Oprah Winfrey interview, the headlines around Catherine's relationship was Waity Katie because Catherine was so patient with Prince William. Prince William, who went to Prince Harry and said, "Are you sure it's not too soon?" It was too soon. But Prince William was so traumatized by dealing with the fallout from his own parents' relationship that he was incredibly picky. They were off and on. And finally, he asks her to marry him after almost 10 years. And it's a wonderful, beautiful relationship. But Catherine knew exactly what she was getting into. She knew all of the characters. She was patient. Patience is a virtue. And she understood the protocol. And I think that is something that should be admired.
And Grace is a dirty little girl who never washes her face, just to continue that little rhyme that you started there. But anyway, I digress. More importantly, no, given those weighty Katie headlines, it was actually, I think, from her point of view, working out what am I taking on here?
Mm.
And you've got to give her some credit. You can wait, but you actually are taking on something that is going to become an all-consuming part of your life. You will never be a normal citizen again. Once she started going out with William, it then became her life was always in a goldfish bowl, and it will continue to be so. And those are then the comparisons with Diana in the sense, and we talked about it last week. she is the glamour face of the modern royal family. So she has inevitable comparisons in that. But actually, got we've got to drop the Diana analogy and allow her to develop her own sort of brand, as it were, which we know what it is. It sort of carries on, but we don't need these endless references to Diana. And of course, Harry is in his fixated mode about his mother, and that causes problems because he's always harping back to that time, and everything is related to what happened to his mother. But we do need to move on. Time does heal. And however horrid it was, you'll never get over it within your own family. You lose your mother. I don't care who you are in those circumstances, where you're from, you will never get over it. And it will leave a mental scar. But for Catherine's sake, we need to move on from that because it puts burden on her. And I think that's difficult for her because everywhere comparison. We need to stop that and just say, look, it's Catherine. She's come through cancer. She's in a different era now. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, also her judgment when it comes to people seems so much better than Princess Diana's. Towards the end of her life, she's running around with the Alfayeds, Dodi accused of doing drugs and we know he was engaged to another woman when he starts dating Diana. We recently read about just how small Catherine's circle is, how tight her circle is, how protective they are of her, all around. Just such a far better judge of character. She, I think, considers consequences a lot deeper than Diana did. It's almost like Diana, maturity wise, was stumped at that altar. Does that make sense?
Well, in terms of her choice, look, she was left sort of bewildered and sort of new and loved to rile and sort of go against the establishment. When now we know the stories about Mohammed Al Fayed, what an objectionable human being he was, and Dodi Fayed. There was no love lost between father and son. He was desperate to try and sort of anti-establishment figure and was encouraging that. And whether anything would have come of it, I'm pretty sure nothing would have done. But she was, a single woman then. She was fully entitled to lead the life she wanted, but she knew what she was doing. She was
she made some really bad decisions that it cost her life. And I do blame Martin Bashir for a significant amount of that, but still.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the circumstances around the death are just horrendous. But I think in terms of now, we have to move on. That was 1997, and a lot has happened. That's nearly 30, it's 29 years ago, for goodness sake. We've got to move on. And for the sake of both William and Harry, and also for the royal family as they try to establish their new identity post the late Queen's death, and now the King Charles around, and obviously William will then come to the throne whenever that is. So they need to make sure there's not this sort of picture of Diana sort of hanging over everywhere, that everything's related to any woman in the royal family is compared immediately to Diana. Most of the population 30 years ago, it's got to be people of my age who really remember her. Look, you would have been quite a young girl when she died, if alive at all, because obviously you're in the, you've just turned 21, haven't you, Kinsey?
Yes. Wait, it's almost your birthday, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've got many, many, many more on than you. But yes, Friday is my birthday. Rock and roll. Anyway, when you get to my age, you forget them, right?
Yeah.
You don't want them because they become, occasionally you have to celebrate the odd landmark when you sort of wheeled out and go, oh yeah, okay, that's, I'm up to this one now, am I? Oh, really? But what I'm saying is, it's 29 years ago, and she was around. And look, she was a very influential figure of her time. But in terms of the Princess of Wales, we now look at her in a different light. She's had a lot to go through, recovering from cancer, and she's got to make sure that she draws people along with her own set of beliefs and confidence. And obviously, we've seen these videos have come out. I'm going to just be a little bit controversial. You brave audience, hold fire here. Do not lampoon me and send me off into purdah. Just she is in a very privileged position, but I just wonder, and there was certainly a feeling. I'm absolutely, I get what she's saying about this nature. I'm a rural
But
boy, and I
you're
love the
you're
fact.
you're referencing the Princess of Wales,
Yeah,
Catherine. Her birthday on
yeah,
Friday, she released a video surrounding her birthday, and it was one of her nature films where
yeah.
she talks about the
And
importance of being outside.
it was winter, and I get it, and I know what it means. Fresh air and nature, and being able to commune with nature is such an enlightening thing. But actually, you've actually got to be slightly careful, because although I know she references, find a way, it's often quite hard, and she is in a privileged position. So just make sure that, sometimes, make sure everyone's got to feel that they can belong and understand what she's saying. I get the message 100%, because I think nature, we need to reconnect with animals, because we are an animal. And I think I've said this before. So I just want to make sure that, it feels more inclusive, and would be my only thing about that. And maybe that will upset some of our audience. And I've now been going to be pilloried. But please understand, dear audience, I'm coming from a good place here. I think it's nothing but positive, but just be aware how you make sure it feels like the people who live in a town, in a city, who don't get quite the opportunity to walk, through beautiful parts of the countryside, like I know I do, in the Cotswolds. I am deeply privileged that I have the chance to, while it's snowing and it's icy, to walk out and experience the joy of winter. Also, the downside of winter, when you can't get off, when you're frozen in. But anyway, that's another story, and we don't want to. We're not here to talk about my problems getting out of my house last week. But anyway, there we go.
As a royal reporter, I'm always digging into international stories, but nothing's more frustrating than hitting content blocks online. They'll say I can't read an article because I'm not in the right country. That's where ExpressVPN comes in, a virtual private network that creates a secure tunnel for your online activity, keeping it private and safe. For unblocking, it lets you change your online location to any of 105 countries. I use it to access the UK and global libraries. I recently watched my latest Meghan Markle documentary on Channel 5 thanks to ExpressVPN. No more missing out. Privacy wise, it hides my browsing from ISPs who sell data, crucial when researching sensitive topics. And on public Wi Fi during travel, its encryption protects my logins. ExpressVPN's the best, fastest speed, no log servers audited by PwC, connects up to 14 devices. And their new tiered plans start at just $3.49 a month. That's just 12 cents a day. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by clicking the link in the description box below. The URL is expressvpn.com/Kinsey. That's expressvpn.com/Kinsey. Well, there is something to be said about completing what you start.
Mm.
Catherine started this series last year. Its reliability, its stability, which is one of the words I always use when I talk about the late Queen Elizabeth II. Harry and Meghan start things and don't finish them
Mm.
constantly. And here is someone that sticks to her commitments and executes. That is someone you can count on. And I saw Liz Jones in the Daily Mail tearing into this video saying, that it was unrelatable. And Liz Jones, to that, I'd say, eat it, which hopefully they censor that. But, I wasn't happy about it. Liz
Mm.
Jones commentary on it. I think that Catherine is, when she is committed to something, she's proven to us that she's going to see it all the way through. And perhaps some people watch it and go, I just am not on that level. I live in an apartment complex with 300 people,
Yeah.
but, you know, maybe you just need to watch it and try to consume it in a
Yeah.
different way. Maybe that means going into your apartment complex's gym and just walking on the treadmill while watching YouTube videos of I don't know what. Like, I think she's just trying to say get up and get out, and it's
Oh,
all about how you consume that
uh,
message.
I don't disagree. I absolutely, you know, she's grateful, and you get that sense that she's now in a much more positive place health wise, and that's why I want to stop all this Diana stuff. Just think, she's had to navigate through her own health issues. Yes, she's had all the best treatment and everything, but that doesn't matter. It's just, she's in a way got to now build her life, her second, I don't know, second chance might be a bit dramatic, but in a way her children are always her primary focus, um, as it was for Diana. But we need to move on in a sense. And I think what's happened over the last, couple of years is now a chance, with the release of that last video and saying move on from the Diana thing, to then say this is a new chapter, a new beginning, and actually a new beginning for the royal family as they try and put themselves back on the front foot, which hasn't always been easy over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think I totally understand what you're saying, but I come from the Peloton world where I sit on my Peloton and I can be anywhere. So, yes, I wish I was in your backyard fighting with the squirrels, but I can jump on my Peloton and pretend I'm there, and that's fine by me. I know we have another Prince William story.
Yeah.
We're gonna. I moved our Prince William story to the bottom because I think it's actually related to some of the other stories we're going to talk about in the lead up.
Mm.
So I thought it would be a nice bow on at the end of our package. But let's talk about something that I know is going to annoy the hell out of you. Meghan
Okay.
Markle's upcoming UK visit depends on one thing, insiders say. Meghan could return to the UK this year for the first time since 2022. It has been reported that she could be joined by her husband, Prince Harry, at an Invictus Games event in Birmingham in July. The event will be to mark the 1 year countdown party, which is something that we typically see them do. Well, and then Harry will sit down and do an interview with Good Morning America or whoever, but he also does that as well. We've seen when he does this. While it is also believed Meghan will be in attendance, an insider said her presence depends on one thing: security. This is all about what we've been talking about over the last 2 weeks. Harry wanting that Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper approved automatic security whenever he lands in the UK, despite the fact that he doesn't live, has no home presence in the UK, has rarely visited the UK in the last few years except to sue people. Um, what a manipulative headline. And
Mm.
this is coming off a string of manipulative headlines trying to corner and force the royal
Mm.
family's hand.
Yeah, the Ravek one. I do think their PR team are working, or someone is working overtime to sort of put a spin and sort of back the royal family into a bit of a corner. The last thing the Invictus Games wants, and we've seen it when they were in Toronto and everything, it becomes the Meghan show. They
Mhm.
don't want that. And this is what they want it to be about: the service personnel who will be competing. That is the primary objective. Remember the Invictus game, it wasn't always Harry's personal fiefdom. It was something that was set up with both the king and the now king, William and Harry. It was a sort of triumvirate because they both, both William and Harry understood they needed to do something for servicemen and they had ambitions for it. But it obviously then developed into Harry's show. And I think that's the problem. It wasn't just, everyone said, well, this is Harry's. It wasn't always that way, but it is now. But we don't need it to become the soap opera that will be Meghan in this town. The security would be absolutely fine for her coming to this event.
Always, always.
Always. So, I mean, I just know it's a wretched excuse. And I wish they would just wake up and go, we know this country is not going to leave them, particularly a high profile event like this, when there will be, there may be representatives from Ukraine. There could be representatives from God knows other countries that have war situations and personnel sort of acknowledging what's going to be happening in a year's time. No, it must not become the Meghan show. And that is the big, I think, a problem for the Invictus game organizers. Now,
Right.
it would be perfectly normal for the king to even probably come to a year anniversary
Wait,
event. I
hold on.
think,
Wait, we're not there yet.
yeah.
Pump the brakes, Rupert. I mean,
No, not going to the event, but this event in July. I know that I'm not going ahead. I'm just saying it might even be normal for him to be at
that would
that.
be a
Sure.
huge,
Yeah,
that would be huge news. I think that
yeah.
that would be such, and I also don't believe, I think that that would have needed to be on the King's schedule a long time ago,
Mm.
and somebody would have leaked by now. I don't know, but because I have been
Were
hearing
you?
since the summer that Harry and Meghan are trying to recruit William, Catherine, Queen Camilla, and King Charles for the actual 2027 games. And that was Harry's objective. But when it comes to these stories, and I've seen you cover them on Talk over the last few days, these stories feel highly manipulative. Someone from Camp Sussex leaks that Harry will get his security back.
Yeah.
The only thing that would jeopardize that is the royal family intervening. That was a specific story that came out. Harry is set to get his security back. The only thing that could come into play that would where he'd lose that is if the royal family intervened in a negative way. Now, this paints the royal family again as the villains. And again, extortion, blackmail. You better do what I say, or everybody's going to think that you intervened. Then Harry wants King Charles at Invictus. Get out of here. Like the only person that would be the only person that would platform PR wise is Harry. It doesn't really do anything for the king. More people loathe Harry in your country than like him, and so get out of here with the olive branch talk. That just benefits Harry, who desperately needs that proximity to the royal family to continue to commercial or to continue to function commercially. Then Meghan will only return with full security. That's again, to me, it looks like I feel like they've got the royal family in a corner and they're trying to force their hand. If we don't get our security, everybody's going to know it's your fault. Meghan's not going to come back unless she gets the security. It feels like they are bullying
Yeah, but
again.
again, well, yes, and they're backing them into a corner, yet they will have the security. So this is what's so annoying. There would, if Harry wants Meghan there, but I don't think we want her there because that will be a distraction because
That's the
that'll be
greatest
the
point.
story.
That's the greatest point. You're so right.
And we don't need her there because she'll be clutching him like a limpet and at every and they're joined at the hip and everything and it'll be a distraction,
And she gets
whereas
up on stage and she
yeah,
talks to
oh,
everybody, and it's like, okay, you've been married to this guy for a few years, but other than that, what qualifies you as an
she
expert in this space? You sell jam.
well exactly, and it's not about her and it shouldn't be about her. Yes, it's absolutely right for Harry to say, well, we're really excited about what could happen in a year's time. But I am absolutely just think that it's a conundrum for the Invictus Games organisers. It does put them into a slightly difficult scenario. Harry is when he's left to his own devices around service personnel. I'm told he clicks, but when he's always got worrying about what's happening to the trouble and strife, you're going, oh my God, he changes. He's not the same. And he used to be so relaxed around service personnel and engaging. But when she adds a different sense of dynamic drama, and we don't want her anywhere near it because we'll be talking about the security and everything
We'll
else.
be
And look at
talking
her
about
body.
her wardrobe.
Yeah. Oh,
There were questions brought up about their 2024 tax documents because they spent such a significant more amount of money than they received through their foundation, which is now just philanthropies. But people were like, is she writing off the clothes she's wearing to Invictus on, off on her taxes? Like, why are there so many expenses here? But yeah, people talking about her wardrobe. Is she dressed appropriately for the
yeah.
event? And there was that very bizarre moment, one Invictus, where she's ahead of the parade. She's like
Yeah.
marching with these men, and it's like, why do you think that you belong here? What's going on? It just
Well,
feels so
good.
inappropriate. I mean, the by the way, Hugo Vickers,
Mm.
our friend, is like, I got to get
Yeah.
back on with Rupert Bell. But to steal my friend Hugo Vickers' line, she's a distraction. She is
Uh,
distracting from some legitimately good work and brilliant people.
and this is my big beef with her getting anywhere near it, unless the situation with the royal family is resolved. But she needs the oxygen of the royal family publicity for her brand because
Mm.
she know it's been tarnished and everyone can see through it. But suddenly if she's then rubbing shoulders with the king, look at me, I'm back. And I'm sorry, that kind of approach does not wash with me. It will affect the Invictus Games brand. They need absolutely focus on the work of what it's about and the efforts of all the people who put themselves through really difficult things to get there to compete. That's the story of the Invictus Games. It's not and must not be. You can feel me getting quite angry. The Meghan Markle show, the Duchess of Sussex show. It can be the Duke of Sussex's show, but it needs to be one that
Because
has
he
the
he killed
narrative.
he killed 25 Taliban,
Yeah.
so it can be his show. He killed
Well,
25
no, no,
Taliban.
no,
I
no,
know,
no,
I
no.
know, I know. I'm being facetious. I
You
wanted to,
are being.
but do you feel like all of these do you feel like they're using a legitimate cause that is celebrated all over the world to try to manipulate to get their security? Because that's what I feel like. I'm offended that it feels like they're using this cause that no one disagrees with. We all love the Invictus Games. They're using it and taking advantage of it to try to secure Harry's wishes, which he has been pitching a nasty toddler baby fit about for the last 5 years. By the way, consequences that the royal family told him would happen if he stepped back in the way he was stepping back. It's not like, surprise, you no longer get automatic armed protection when you get come to the UK. It was, but you're going to lose certain perks if you no longer live here and are a working member of the British royal family. And as you've said already, or alluded to already, 9 times out of 10, this idiot gets armed protection the
Uh,
second he lands.
it's not even an issue. And it
No.
wouldn't be an issue for Meghan. Look, I read somewhere today that the King's thinking, well, to sort the security thing, they go and stay at Highgrove, which
Mm.
obviously he would know from his childhood and stayed there. So I suppose, going to stay, that might be fine and then
But you
nip up
know
the
that the
M5.
king has offered him places before, and
Oh,
Harry refuses to use them because he says he doesn't trust that they're not bugged or he
oh,
won't have
well,
people snooping on him.
he needs to he needs to take a good look at himself first of all about, because he's the one singing like a canary.
Yeah.
And so do I believe that? I don't know. But I just feel that the Sussex PR campaign are trying to slightly use the Invictus Games and the security as a means to say, look, we're offering an olive branch. We're happy to come here. No, I can see it. They need it for brand rebuild, and she needs it back. And suddenly she's realizing, I've been taking a hit now. Okay, they may have leaked out the jam figures, and please tell me they haven't
No,
sold
that
27.
is, you can just tell based on traffic to the site
Uh,
alone that that's not, there's no way that
uh,
that is
if they'd
anywhere
sold
close.
27 million pounds worth of dollars worth of that spread, I mean, I imagine,
No.
there'll be rivers of the
Megan
stuff
would be
that's
on
been.
her third or fourth nose by now if
Yeah,
that were true,
yeah.
and that's
Well,
just not
anyway.
true. I could
uh,
actually couldn't I can't tell what nose Megan's on because the filter she used on her Oprah
oh,
Winfrey and Gayle
yeah.
King sit down, like I felt like she'd just taken a stick of butter and rubbed it all over her face because
Sorry,
I could barely see
sorry.
her.
What, three or four noses? What are you saying? A little
Nose
bit of
jobs,
what?
nose jobs.
No, nose jobs. They hurt, don't they?
I
Um,
imagine that they do. I would love
well,
one. I've got a
uh,
little bump right here that I'd love to knock out.
I clearly, my birthday. If I'm starting to do that, no, no, no. It's what I've
You're
got
perfect
here.
just the way you are, Rupert. Or you
Oh,
were before you criticized the Princess of Wales. I'm just
well, I
kidding.
didn't. No, I criticised in a gentle way. No, we moved on. We do
Yes,
not
we
need
haven't
to,
done.
but
Um,
because I've gone into full Harry and Meghan mode, but I'm a great supporter of the Invictus Games. I am passionate about what it was, and because someone asked last week, and if you can see, someone saw Elizabeth II over my shoulder.
yeah,
Now that is not, it's not personally from her,
yeah.
but it actually is when you get commissioned in the army as an officer, everyone who's commissioned receives something from the monarch of the time. And that was mine back in 1979 when I got commissioned into the Grenadier Guards. So for
So
the
cool.
astute person watching on last week's program, so we got something with Elizabeth II, just to clear that up. It's nothing unique in the sense it's not for
It's kind of
amazing.
unique. It's kind of
Well,
unique.
no, no, because anytime you get commissioned, once you pass out from Sandhurst, and I'm sure the other, Air Force and Navy in this country, they will get something as well. When you pass out and you're then commissioned into, in my case, the Grenadier Guards.
And then
And
over here on his right shoulder, you can see his book. Women are from Mars, men are from Venus. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
no, no, well, that picture is actually me in the army. But there we go. So just to give you background to what I have behind me. So nothing, not just a reflection on something that happened long, long time ago when I was commissioned back in
Just a
1979.
young
And
buck.
I was a young buck, barely could shave, and poor soldiers had to serve under me in my platoon. I feel deeply sorry for anyone who had the misfortune of being in my platoon for 3 years, but I enjoyed every minute of it, and I had some good fun times.
A proper New Year reset isn't about extremes, it's about showing up as your best self every day. Beam is a company proudly founded in America, run by people who share our values, and they've built products that help you keep the promises you make to yourself, the promises that actually matter. Beam's best selling Dream Powder is a healthy nighttime blend packed with proven ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the world. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and melatonin, and it's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. No groggy hangover. The sea salt caramel flavor, absolute heaven, like indulgent hot cocoa without the guilt. Dream is made right here in America. No shortcuts. Founders guided by integrity and a strong work ethic. Beam has transformed over 28 million nights of sleep. So, if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Go to shopbeam.com/Kinsey. Use code Kinsey for up to 40% off, just $39 with my code. That's $1.25 per night. Shopbeam.com/Kinsey today. I guess we already discussed this. How much do you want to elaborate on? Is Prince Harry calling King Charles's bluff with Invictus Game olive branch from the Daily Beast? Here's a source that says Prince Harry desperately wants Charles at Invictus and he wants him to open the games alongside him. And that was told to the Sun specifically. Harry, and Matt Wilkinson told me this over the summer. I hope I'm allowed to say that Harry was trying to recruit everyone. So I do believe this quote. Harry wants it to happen both for the games and for their relationship. It's his dream to have his father by his side. Now, the Daily Beast does some additional reporting and says the story is caused some of the king's side to bristle at what they see as an attempt to force Charles into attending the games and lending Harry the stamp of legitimacy. Friends of William want the King's team to rebuke the invitation before it takes legs and hope to see scathing, skeptical responses sprinkled into media briefings in the coming days. But they are nervous that Charles will indeed entertain the idea as part of a broader goal of reconciling with Harry and spending time with his grandchildren. I agree with most of that. Again, like we've said, this is all for Harry's benefit. Everything is for Harry's benefit. And showing you and I, like, if we're just talking about family, unity, and love, showing up at an international event where 3,000 cameras are on you is not the place to reconcile. You do it in the privacy of your own home behind closed doors and nobody hears about it. Nobody knows about it. And we notice that you're around more, or that he's talking
Mm.
about you more, or that you pop up more. But this just screams PR stunt. And the
Oh,
king is better than that.
the king does not need, and we alluded to, this to feel like he's basically a PR means to an end for Harry.
PR puppet.
And that's the phrase I was looking for. And he doesn't need to be that. He needs to be there knowing that the focus is there for the people who've served their countries and will be representing their countries at the Invictus Games. I think it's going to be the biggest one. I did speak to an organizer. They've got great plans for it. It is an extremely complicated event to run because if you think about the athletes, you have to have all the support network for all the disabled athletes and various people. So it's not just one athlete. It's then, there's probably two support staff for every athlete. It's a huge logistical operation. It's expensive to put on, but its intention is absolutely commendable. And I wish it well. And the king will only want to be part of it. I am absolutely sure if he can feel that he will not be used as a means to an end. And that's why Neat cannot be the Meghan sideshow. By then, Harry and the king should have had meetings, got on with it, and cleared the air, and can just be more relaxed in each other's company. Because if they haven't had much meetings, and they're for the first time seen, as you say, with a barrage of TV cameras, photographs, you name it, that's not the way to go about it, because it will become that soap opera.
Isn't
And
it
the
just
Royal,
so delusional to imagine Harry and Meghan? And we know that their PR team is doing. I only know of one member of their PR team left because they just lost Meredith Maines. They just lost some girl from Netflix. So I only know of one current employee, and they're on the UK side. But doesn't it just feel like laughably delusional to imagine Harry and Meghan with their Zoom filter on, sitting across from this person in the UK, strategizing? And that anybody would think that it was realistic after what Harry said in Spare and what they said in the Oprah Winfrey interview and what someone leaked to Omid Scobie that ended up in the Dutch version of Endgame, that this entire family is going to stand on a balcony cheering on Harry's little project. I'm sorry, but that is absolute insanity.
it is, and that's why I want we want the Invictus Games to be a success, and I think that's everyone's sort of gut feeling. But the Harry briefing, the fact that he is clutching at straws, he hasn't really got much else to do. As we know, all his charitable endeavours have been under a bit of a cloud. He is a bit rudderless. Fine, he's bringing up his children, but what else is he doing apart from occasionally appearing
Surfing.
on Zoom at a weren't they on Zoom the other day for
Yeah.
something?
For Oprah and Gail King, he surfs. Senebale's gone. African Parks Charity is having a lot of really serious problems and accusations thrown their way. What does he do for Better Up? We hear about him doing something for Better Up maybe once a year. I know the Aviation Awards, where he is allegedly a legend of aviation, is coming up on the 23rd. So of course, we do know that Harry likes to stop what he's doing to go stand near a trophy whenever at all possible. But no, I agree with you. What's the solution here? Is the solution for King Charles to record a video celebrating the armed forces, celebrating the wounded warriors, and congratulating the Invictus Games, and then sending Edward and Sophie?
Well, Edward and Sophie could easily be there. The Princess Royal could easily be there.
I don't think
And
the princess. I think the Princess Royal does not love
well,
what
no, she doesn't
Harry's
suffer.
done.
No, she doesn't suffer fools. I can assure you. The sort of go-to safe pair of hands are the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, but it is, and maybe, but if you think about it, didn't the Duchess of Edinburgh try and offer some mentoring advice to Meghan, but was given short shrift and
Yeah.
saying, "I know it all. I don't need you to help me." navigate my way into the royal family because I'm more
I
than
know, but at
capable.
this point, Harry and Meghan have to take what they can get. And I think the
Whoa.
best way for the royal family to get out of this fantasy that Harry and Meghan are trying to pressure them in is I will send you a video. I will say the king will send you a video that can play, at some point throughout the games when Meghan would normally be on the stage speaking. And to represent us, we'll send Edward and Sophie, or we'll send.
Well,
I think that the York girls, are we still allowed to call them that? Would be
well,
there.
they're still.
Will be there. I think
Well,
at least
well,
Eugene.
Eugenia and Beatrice, but that was sort of bit of tokenism there because they're not technically working royals in the sense. You need the big hitters, and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh come with a degree. They're hard working. They get on with it. No fuss, no bother. And look, he obviously connections with the military, so it wouldn't be wide of the mark. But the whole thing needs to be actually Harry and the King need to get this sorted out. But as we always say, under cover of darkness, no interviews 2 days later with the BBC,
Or
nothing,
Good
just a
Morning America
yeah,
or the Today Show.
wherever, but just saying, you know, I'm hopeful and just learn how to do it in a more tactful, discreet, sensible, well-mannered way instead of thinking you're gonna like a bull in a china shop trying to just say right it's my way or the highway, which is sometimes is what you feel with Harry and
Always.
Meghan, or and that is and which is not right. Of course, there's always two sides to every coin, but at the moment the coin is very one-sided, and it's all about Harry. And I feel a lot of these stories we've seen have been around trying to distract from the royal family, what they do over the Christmas period. Now the royal family are back out there working again, doing their thing. The Prince and Princess of Wales were at Charing Cross Hospital the other day, again very chiming with what they're trying to do and helping the people who looked after them. So lots of good stuff going on behind the scenes, but it's always a distraction because we probably get a Harry and Meghan story out there. Andrew's gone a bit quiet, but you never know what could happen next there. So that's why the royal family occasionally feel like they're taking a battering from a PR perspective, and Harry is keen to do it. By the sound of things, is to always have them on the back foot.
I know, while literally the palace is tearing its hair out and Andrew's losing his titles, there are Harry and Meghan at a Dodgers game getting booed. I mean, getting booed, but they're like Harry and Meghan should know better than to be sitting in a stadium at a Dodgers game while the royal family is having this historical moment taking place.
Well, they always want to be the story, and
Yeah.
Meghan is desperate to always be the story. And while we're not necessarily seeing her too much doing new stuff, but the sort of undercurrent of keeping their name out there is definitely going on. And the security issues is obviously topical, and the Invictus Games, the
I think we're
British,
seeing the ramp up of the security stories because they've been making their decision. They've
yeah,
been making their, and so Harry and Meghan are trying to manipulate that decision based on headlines. The same
yeah,
way Harry's trying to manipulate it by saying he had a stalker the last time he was there who would tell you she's just a fan, would tell you she's a member of the Sussex squad and just a lover of Harry and Meghan. They're over the top. They exaggerate everything. And I feel like the headlines we've seen over the last few weeks are them trying to force Ravik's hand and force the royal family not to intervene in a negative way because they will be
yeah.
blamed if Harry doesn't get what he wants and then they're villainized again.
Yeah, and of course there's going to be super fans. The royal family have got them, super fans
I mean,
who go to,
Meghan met with some of hers during the
yeah,
launch of her With Love Meghan show. She hosted a party with a bunch of her super fans online, and she went and met with them privately and as privately as Meghan Markle does. It was all over the internet. But
hmm,
Meghan invited some friends or some of her fans to watch With Love Meghan with her when it premiered. Yeah, there are people that are and
yeah,
Harry based on his upbringing, should be used to people showing up and waiting to get a glimpse of him. The royal family deals with it every Christmas at Sandringham. Everywhere they go, there's a crowd of people that want to see them.
And he knew that that was going on way before he met Meghan. He was always a very popular member of the royal family who was always likely to have lots of super fans. And that's why the whole saga is a sorry one, because he's had his head turned. He can't see the wood from the trees and actually think, well, let's step back. But as we say, he has no ability to step back and smell them roses, because he just can't. And it is so frustrating, I think, for the royal family that he is basically whipped into submission and behaves to the frustration of the royal family, who've got to somehow use 26 as a rebuilding block. There's a lot going on. Is the King state visit to America. That's going to be lively, and there's going to be how's that going to go down?
Is that even going to continue to
Well,
go down if Trump keeps doing some of the major? If
I mean,
I'm not. I have no opinion about kidnapping a
hmm,
kidnapping anyone or a dictator. I have no opinion about kidnapping a dictator. I have no desire to have anything to do with Greenland. I mean, but he's making some pretty controversial moves. And I've actually sat back and thought to myself, I wonder if the king would opt not to come over here,
well, I'll tell you,
because could it create some drama for him back home?
the Greenland one would create some drama, because Denmark are a NATO. So for the king, this is all he does have to navigate the geopolitical world. And that's part of the influence of the royal family. We've talked about it before, is the soft power element. But at the moment, we talked about Harry and Meghan have a bull in the china shop approach. Well, maybe people think your president's got a bull in the china shop approach to what he does. I don't know. I don't live in
I don't either.
America,
I
and
am an equal opportunity hater. I hate politics. Like, I hate when I see people say that I lean a certain way. I hate it all. I hate it all.
well,
I want cheaper
well, no, that's
gas. I want cheaper groceries. That's all I want. I want it to live in a safe place. But
yeah.
other than that, I want lower pharmacy costs, for the elderly, especially. But I really,
I think
I can't.
what you're saying is what everybody wants. But the point, coming back to the royal family and keeping us on the track here, on the point being, the royal family do have to always navigate a geopolitical climate. Now, the Prince William, we've talked about it, might be heading off to the World Cup in his capacity as president of the FA. But again, that will have, what's going on the wider picture will be of interest, and obviously creates some problems. Now, it's an ever changing landscape. It's hard to keep a track of the news cycle at present. So, planning events in April and May, things might be in a very different picture, but you just don't know where we're at the moment. And for the royal family, they've get led, the British government will advise them, should you be going, whatever, we assume that it will be all systems go. We don't know the details. You never, but it is expected. But it will be an interesting one. And it's all part of the royal family having to have their finger on the pulse, not only within the terms of the public opinion, the support they have for them, but also understanding what is going on a wider political scale and what impact it could have on Britain, but also on the royal family's role within that set of circumstances.
I took us way off topic, but let's circle back to Prince William and the PR crisis happening occasionally within the British royal family. The Daily Mail reported over the weekend that Prince William's hired a crisis management expert as the royal family continues to wrestle with the fallout from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now her name's Liza Rosencroft, and she's described as bulletproof sunshine by her former boss. And she's worked with some huge names during tough times, it says. Now, when I read this, yes, new Epstein information seems to come out every single day. I believe that he wants to distance himself from the Andrew problem. Um, Although it was so weird in Kate Mansey's piece about Catherine, the Princess of Wales, that they made it a point to say that he was worried about his uncle's mental health and he wasn't this monster. I mean, I don't believe he's a monster, but it was interesting that somebody thought it was important to tell Kate Manzi that he's not the muscle, the deciding force in the Andrew thing. But I instinctually thought if it's true about Harry's security, and my instinct is true that Harry's going to try to set up a rival court, then perhaps that is why somebody might bring on a monstrous crisis PR person.
I actually think it's to keep it to the Harry and Meghan thing. It's not as simplistic as that. I think we've actually been alluding to some of the topics. It's understanding that they've got someone who really does understand crisis management. And it's not necessarily just about dealing with the PR problems within the royal family. It's actually dealing with, right, what William is thinking is we have to get back and deal with these problems. They're not going away. So I need someone who's got a really good, broad picture. Because why do companies employ crisis management people? You have if something goes wrong, you have to have a PR team whose job is to say, right, who am I advising? And the royal family are no different from anybody else. And they need to make sure that it helps them be fit for purpose and they don't react too late. Because sometimes the royal family are accused of not reacting
Andrew
quick enough.
Mountbatten Windsor. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Exactly. And then you might, we started talking about Diana, how they didn't react necessarily as quick enough because they thought, to the way the public opinion was going, seemed to be turning against the royal family, even though we know the Queen was doing it for exactly the right reasons in her mind, which was I was protecting the children.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where and I think William is probably being quite sensible. And if she is one who's got that kind of really seen it and got it a fully packed CV, the royal family need it because it's not been easy PR wise. Why do we always, they're trying to get onto the front foot from a PR perspective, yet every story gets the distraction story. And we've talked about it now in this program. We're worried about the Invictus Games turning into the Meghan show. So the royal family can't do what they want because it'll all be about Meghan. So that is the kind of, how do we make sure that we can be seen to be on the front foot? They're not that it's a never complain philosophy they have, but they've got to start making sure their PR, because public opinion in Britain needs to be seen that the royal family have a relevance. And amongst 20 somethings, it might be to think, well, looks all right, but what does it mean? It means the square root, to most people. They look like they're living, that's where they've got their own problems and they don't want to be hearing about royal family, soap opera family things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reflect good on them. So they've really got to have this lady on the payroll. Might be a shrewd move by William to say, right, we've got to be punchy. We've got to be sensible. We've got to play the long game. And the long game is that because the royal family is a long-serving institution. It's not short-term fixes, but this it has been an existential crisis for the royal family, having to deal with the fallout from Andrew. Even this weekend, more Epstein stories. Peter Mandelson, who, depending on where you're on the world, but he was our British ambassador, had to resign because of his linked with a person he described as his best pal, i.e. referring to Jeffrey Epstein, and did an interview over the weekend. So the Epstein story isn't going away. So it immediately gets linked. I was on today. Immediately is linked to sort of Andrew and Epstein and Peter Mandelson and all the kerfuffle around there. Andrew's story is never away from that one, and it's not going away, I assume, from an American perspective and not going away from a British perspective. So I think it's a good move that William has brought somebody into the fold who might just, as long as she can talk the talk and say, you listen to me, which I think the royal family will do, Whereas that Sussex lot don't listen to anybody, and hence the reason why they get PR people just move, with
Like a
increasing
revolving door.
regularity. Well,
Yeah.
a revolving door can't move quick. Well, it's the quickest revolving door I've ever seen. It's like one of those cartoon revolving doors.
Yeah.
No, there's another one flown out, But anyway, there we go.
All right. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Rupert, I'm so excited to talk to you again next week, and we'll see what other leaks from the Sussex camp we get, because they're very obvious lately, and they're giving us plenty of content to work with.
But please forgive me for having me just saying something a little negative about the Princess of Wales. Will you forgive me?
Your thoughts and prayers to Rupert in the comment section this week.
Yeah. Oh, going to be interesting. I've switched off. Oh, anyway, fingers crossed. Anyway, it's all about opinions.
We love you. We'll see you again next week, Rupert. Thank you so much.